Hi everyone. So today I'm going to be doing just a little bit of a look with my Beautycounter products that I just got. So I'll be using the classic palette today, which is their Warm Neutrals eyeshadow palette. And I'm also going to be demoing the blush in the color Nectar. It's a super pretty pink coral with golden undertones and a little bit of shimmer, so it's a nice sheen. And then also the bronzer in Surf, which is a really nice warm bronze, so it'll definitely make you look like you just came out of the sun. So I'm going to do that really quickly. So I'm going to take the bronzer in Surf, and I'm going to be using my Morphe M527 brush, which is my favorite bronzer brush. It really can hollow out the cheeks, but at the same time disperses a really nice amount of product. So I'm going to dip in here, just a few swirls, tap off the excess. And then I'm going to make a kind of like a fish face, and I'm going to focus it right in the hollows of my cheeks and also a little bit on top of my cheeks. And then I'm just going to dip back in. See how it creates a nice bronze and it makes the face look alive again, because I do have on my eyebrows and then concealer, foundation, and powder. So I'm just using bronzer to bring a little bit of life back to my face. And a nice tip for bronzer is if you're not sure where to place it, you always want to go around the forehead, underneath the cheekbones, and on the jaw. And it kind of creates a nice 3 if you think about it like that. The point of bronzer is actually to warm up the face. But when you're putting down a deeper color and you're doing a little bit of a contour, what you want to think about is contour brings depth to the face and highlight brings light. So wherever you want places in your face to come forward, like the middle of your face, so your forehead, your nose, and your chin is where you want to place a highlight. And wherever the outermost portions of your face are is where you want to put a bronzer and a contour. So again, just going in with nice circular motions into the hollows of my cheeks and around my cheekbone to create a nice sun-kissed look. And you can tell right away that that just brought a lot of color back into my face and brought a nice warmth. I always drag it down the neck just to make sure everything's even and it all looks the same. And just continuing back over it with not even any more product on the brush, just to make sure that there's no harsh lines and that everything looks blended seamlessly. So that's the bronzer. It looks really pretty. I'm going to go in with the blush in Nectar. It's this one. And I'm going to be taking my Luxie 514 blush brush, which is my favorite blush brush. Just tapping in, tapping off the excess, and then placing it right on top of my cheeks. And I personally like to bring it closer to my nose, right on the apples of my cheeks, because I do have a little bit of a larger cheek, as you can see. It's nice and plump. So I like to do that because it brings a more youthful appearance. And I just like to build this up. That's really pretty. Now I'm going to show you how I contour my nose. So I don't always do this step, but I do really like it on days where I'm wearing a lot of makeup. So I'll take a really tiny fluffy brush. This is the Morphe G24, and I'm just going to tap in just a little bit. And when I create my contour for my nose, I like to bring it from the corner of my eyebrow, from right at the end of the eyebrow, all the way down to the end of my nose. And because I have a longer nose, I like to put a little bit at the tip of the nose, right underneath it, so it creates the appearance of a shorter nose and a little bit more upturned. So I'm going to be placing the bronzer underneath my nose. I'm also going to be bringing it down the sides. And when you contour your nose, you want the lines to be super small, so it makes your nose look a little bit smaller. So the point of contouring is to make depth. And when you're doing a nose contour, it's to make your nose smaller. So bring that down. And then one more thing I like to do is put it right over the top of where my nose becomes ballish, because that will, again, create the appearance of an upturned nose. So I really like doing this. And then just going over everything with no more product on the brush, just to smooth it out and make sure there's no harsh lines. When I'm not using an eye primer, I'll definitely use concealer as my eyelid primer. And then what I'll do is I'll set it with a matte cream or a matte white, and this will allow the shadows to go on seamlessly and it won't have them skip. So sometimes if you don't set your concealer on your eyelids, what'll happen is it'll be wet, and so yes, the pigment will apply better, but in my personal opinion, I don't like that because it will apply more pigmented, but you won't get the best blend out of it. So I like to set it either with a translucent loose setting powder or with a matte cream or a white. So now I'm going to go into the palette and I'm going to take the first color, which is Suede, which is this one. I'm going to use the Morphe M441, which is one of my favorite blending brushes of all time. It just works really nicely. It kind of just does the work for you. So I'm going to dip into Suede, and this is going to be my transition color. So on the eye, I have super hooded eyes, but I have my lid and then my crease, which kind of, because I have hooded eyes, gets lost sometimes. So if I pull my eye up, I can see right there is my crease. And then right above that is where you'd put your transition shade. So your transition shade, it serves a purpose because you want a nice gradient. So you have your lid color, your crease color, and then your transition color. So I'm going to put that shade Suede right above my crease and just blend. And I'll dip back in and continue building that color up. When I'm using my blending brush, I will do a combination of circular motion, so like this, and I'll also do a combination of windshield wiper motion, so back and forth. So this will allow the product to blend super well and just create a really nice base. So one of the key things to an eye makeup look, and a lot of people ask me, how do you do your eyeshadow like that? The biggest thing that I can say is you need to take your time blending, because if you don't, it's gonna look kind of messy. And the best way you can make your eyes stand out is by having a super nice blended eye look. Okay, so that's the transition shade down. It looks really nice. And then I'm gonna go in with the same brush and I'm gonna tap into Sienna, which is a more burnt orange. I'm gonna tap off the excess, and then I'm gonna put that right into my crease. So I like to look up because I have hooded eyes. I can see where my crease is a little bit better. And I'll just place it right in there, tucking it right in, and just using circular motions and then windshield wiper motions to blend it together with the transition shade. And just building that color up. So Beautycounter has 3 eyeshadow palettes that are part of their permanent collection. They have this classic palette, and then they have the romantic palette, and then they have the iconic palette. And so I personally really like this classic palette because I think it works with a lot of different eye colors. Brown eyes can really pull off pretty much any colors. Personally, I think brown eyes look best with greens or warm browns, and sometimes purples too. But since this palette is super warm, people with blue eyes will really get a lot of use out of this palette because the warm orangey shades in this palette will really complement blue eyes. Then I'm going to go in with a smaller brush. This is my Morphe M506, and this brush is really nice because it is a nice blending brush, but it's also super tiny, and since my eyes are a little bit smaller, I like to use this to get into more detail. So I'm going to tap into Stable, which is the more cool tone brown. And I'm going to put that right on the outer V. So still blending it into the crease, but not taking it as far over. I'm going to keep it on the outer third of the outer V. So only bringing it in until like about where my eye actually starts. So this will create a lot of dimension, same as the contouring goes. So when you're using eyeshadows like this, you want to think about where you bring depth to your eye. So you want to bring depth to the crease and to the outer V. And where am I bringing light, which is the inner corner and the lid. So just blending that out. I'm going to take it a little bit along my eyelid and along my lower lash, or my lash line. and just blending in circular motions. See how it creates just a little bit more depth in the corner. I'm gonna do the other eye. So what I like to do with my outer V colors is I'll dip into the pan, I'll tap it off, and then I'll press the shadow right on the outside and then blend. So I'm putting it down so that it's not dispersing everywhere, and then I'm blending it exactly where I want it so that it doesn't come in any further than I want it to. So now I'm going to take that first blending brush that I used, the M441 from Morphe, and I'm just going to go over with no extra product on it and just smooth everything out. Just blending. It'll make everything mesh together as one. I think I'm going to use copper on my lid. This brush, it's from Luxie. It's the 239 brush. It's the Precision Shader. And I'm going to pick up copper, which is this really pretty color right here. And I'm going to dip into that. And so what I like about this brush is it kind of has a angled tip, but at the same time it's really nice because it's going to lay down that color seamlessly. So I'm just going to press that and drag it along my lid. And that's such a beautiful shade. So that's super pretty. And one tip that I have for your lid shade, these are already super pigmented, the shimmers. You can see that right here. But if you need them to be like ultra pigmented, what I would say is I would put the pigment onto your brush and then spray your brush with a little bit of water from like a spray bottle and then apply it to your lid, and just that little bit of water will help it like pop so much more. So I'm going to go in with the shade Ivory, which is that super white shimmery color, and I'm going to use that as my inner corner highlight. I'm just going to tap that in. And again, this shade is going to bring a lot of light, as you can see, and it'll make the eyes appear a little bit bigger. I'm also going to take that on the brow bone. So I always like to do a lower lash line because it'll really connect everything together. So I'm going to dip into the same shades that we use. So I'm probably going to do Sienna on that same Morphe M506 brush. And I'm just going to drag that really close to the lash line and connect it to the outer portion of my eye so that everything blends together. Next, I'm going to take Suede, same brush, and just drag that down a little bit lower. So again, creating that nice natural gradient. I'm actually going to take another Morphe brush. So this is the M510, which is the brush I like to use for highlighting. And I'm going to dip into the ivory color just a little bit, tap off the excess, and use this as my highlight. So I like to highlight the tops of my cheekbones to bring them forward a little bit. And then I also like to do right on top of my eyebrows because this will give the appearance of a lifted brow. And put a little bit right here in the center of my brows, like right underneath where the top of the bridge of my nose begins. And I really like the way this looks because it looks like you have a naturally dewy finish. And I'm just going to take my ring finger, dip into it, and put a little bit in the center, not on top of where we contoured, but right in the middle, so it brings everything to life. And then I'm going to do just a little bit on the tip of my nose, which will also help with the appearance of an upturned nose, and then just a little bit on the cupid's bow. I'm going to take this Morphe E36 brush, and this is one of my favorite little pencil brushes because it's super small and it gets into really hard to reach areas. So I'm going to take Sable again, which is the darkest cool tone brown, and just push that right up against the lower lash line. NYX Worth the Hype mascara. The Beautycounter lipstick in Backstage. This is the finished look.